$64 million. That's the price tag Ryan Poles could put on shipping Gervin Dexter to Atlanta to bring back Jesse Bates III, a three-time All-Pro, and in a minute I'll tell you why this could be a massive gamble for Chicago's pass rush. Meanwhile, George McCaskey gave Illinois a one-word answer about Arlington Heights, and that word is pushing the Bears straight toward Hammond, Indiana, with $1 billion waiting on the other side. And to wrap it up, Luther Burden III and Darnell Wright are back on the field right before week 1, but there's still one question nobody wants to answer. Bear down, fam? Let's get into it. Okay, let's talk about this the right way, because there's a lot of noise out there and I need to separate what's confirmed reporting from what's pure speculation. Let's start with the fact that isn't speculation at all. Gervin Dexter left practice early on Tuesday with a trainer, and on Wednesday he still hadn't shown up on the field alongside Austin Booker. 2 days. In the last week of August, days before the start of the season, that is not a coincidence, fam. That's a signal. And insider Jordan Schultz confirmed it with direct language. The Bears have active trade conversations involving Dexter, and, quote, there are multiple scenarios where a deal could get done. That's not some random rumor floating around social media. That's a reporter with a track record on this exact kind of move telling you Ryan Poles is working the phones. Now, to understand why this makes sense from cold front office logic, we need to talk about Dexter's contract situation. He's a 2023 second-round pick out of Florida, and he's in the final year of his rookie deal. That means he hits unrestricted free agency in 2027, and the current market for productive interior defensive tackles is running at or above $20 million a year. The Bears know they probably can't keep him at that price. And a general manager who thinks in terms of asset value, like Poles does not let a piece walk for nothing in free agency if he can turn it into draft capital first. And it's not like Dexter's just any player. In 2025, he had his best season yet. He played all 17 games, 44 tackles, 11 quarterback pressures, and 6 sacks, a career high. Pro Football Focus gave him a pass rush grade of 72.8, ranking him 20th among 134 interior defensive linemen league-wide. That's top 15% at the position. This isn't a rotational guy you just cut loose without thinking twice. Now let's get to the specific rumor, the one giving all of this its shape. The Bears reportedly tried to land Vita Vea from Tampa Bay first, and that pursuit didn't go anywhere. With that door closed, a name surfaced that, personally, left my jaw on the floor. Jesse Bates III of the Atlanta Falcons, 3-time All-Pro. A safety who can change an entire secondary with his ability to read the field and communicate coverages. The structure being reported is this. The Bears would send Dexter plus a 2027 6th-round pick and receive Bates, who's in the final year of a 4-year, $64 million contract he signed back in 2023. $64 million, fam. That's the number that separates this rumor from every other Dexter rumor we've heard the last few weeks. We're not talking about some anonymous draft pick. We're talking about bringing in a player with a genuine elite resume. Why would Atlanta be willing to let him go? Here's the part you need to understand. The Falcons' new general manager, Ian Cunningham, was previously an assistant general manager right here in Chicago. He knows Dexter from the inside, knows his work ethic, knows exactly what he'd be buying. And Atlanta has real defensive holes heading into the season. They lost Jalen Walker to a season-ending injury and James Pierce to an 8-game suspension. They need to reinforce the front now, not in March. A young interior tackle on a cheap contract with a full year of demonstrated growth solves an immediate problem. And in return, they get out from under a big cap number tied to a 29-year-old in the final year of his deal. Now, the question that actually matters to us. Why do the Bears need Bates with this kind of urgency? Here's the piece that ties everything together. Kobe Bryant, the safety they signed this offseason for 3 years and $40 million, tore up his knee, underwent surgery, and the recovery timeline is 4 to 6 months. In practical terms, that could mean he's out for the entire 2026 season. And the depth chart behind him isn't reassuring. Rookie Dylan Thieneman, the number 25 pick, is still an unknown in year 1, and Kyler Gordon has been dealing with lingering soft tissue concerns that have the medical staff on alert. Chicago's secondary, which was supposed to be a strength this year with Jaylon Johnson locked in, suddenly has a real hole in the middle of the field. And that's exactly where Bates fits the role, even if, according to reports, it's a 1-year rental. He's exactly the type of veteran who can stand in the middle of the field, quarterback the coverage calls, and cover for a young secondary while Bryant recovers. If he recovers this season at all. But, and here's where my critical analysis kicks in, because I didn't come to this channel to sell you empty hype. There are 2 big problems with this trade that nobody is discussing with the seriousness they deserve. Problem 1, the money. The Bears currently have $4.59 million in available cap space. That number, fam, doesn't come close to covering Bates' cap hit, which lands around $14 million for 2026. For this trade to actually work, Chicago needs to restructure existing contracts, basically converting salary into bonus money to lower this year's number and kick it down the road. That's absolutely doable. Teams do it constantly, but it's not free. It means committing future flexibility on a roster that's still building toward the eventual extension they'll owe Caleb Williams. Every dollar you push forward today is a dollar less of maneuvering room in 2027 and 2028. Problem 2, and this is the one that actually worries me as a fan looking at the whole roster, what happens to the pass rush if Dexter leaves? Look, it's not a coincidence that in the certainties and uncertainties breakdown that came out this very week, one of the 5 biggest question marks for this team is exactly that: the pass rush beyond Montez Sweat. Chicago doesn't have proven depth there. Dexter, with his career-high 6 sacks in 2025, wasn't the headline of that unit, but he was a real piece generating interior pressure, and that's exactly the kind of pressure that makes life easier for an edge rusher like Sweat, because the quarterback can't just step up in the pocket to escape. If you take Dexter out of the equation and replace him with Neville Gallimore or rookie Jordan Vandenberg, who by Ben Johnson's own words is still learning the position, you're betting that the improvement in the secondary offsets the loss up front. And that bet, honestly, doesn't fully sit right with me. I could be wrong here, but something about it doesn't add up completely. My honest take, I understand Poles' logic. An all-pro safety for a guy who's walking for nothing in a year anyway, plus some cap flexibility for Atlanta, is a trade that, on paper, benefits both sides. But as a fan who wants to see this team competing for the NFC title in January, it worries me that we might be patching one hole by opening another. If this trade closes, the immediate question becomes, who's generating interior pressure on third and long once Bates is already back there quarterbacking the secondary? Because it doesn't matter how good your safety is if the opposing quarterback has 4 clean seconds in the pocket. And to be clear, this hasn't happened yet. It's a rumor with credible sourcing, with concrete numbers, but no confirmation that both sides have actually closed it. I'll be tracking this closely, and the moment there's official movement, you'll hear it here first. And listen, fam, while Gervin Dexter is generating drama in the locker room, there's another drama running in parallel that never stops, and this week it moved again. And I'm going to be direct right out of the gate because I think this week's signal is one of the clearest we've gotten in months. George McCaskey, the franchise chairman, confirmed the team is doing what he called due diligence on a second site in Hammond, Indiana. The specific property is called Wolf Lake Terminals, sitting just 19 miles from downtown Chicago, practically right up against the Illinois-Indiana border. 19 miles, fam. They're not moving to some far-off state. They're crossing an invisible line on the map because on the other side, somebody's actually willing to open the door, and that somebody is putting real money on the table. Indiana has promised up to $1 billion in incentives to attract the franchise. $1 billion, fam. Governor Mike Braun spoke publicly this week and used a phrase I found telling. He said negotiations are in the red zone. That's the language of someone who feels a couple of plays away from scoring. That's not speculation talk. That's the language of someone who sees a clear path. And then there's the other side of the coin, the one that actually stings if you're a fan of this 91-year-old Chicago franchise. When McCaskey was asked directly about any movement on Arlington Heights, the property the Bears bought years ago in Illinois with the original intent of building there, the answer was one word. No, just like that. Dry, no diplomacy, no cushioning. That tells me more than any 5-paragraph press release could. When an executive answers that short about the original plan, it's usually because that plan stopped being the plan a while ago. And to understand how we got here, remember the context. In Illinois, the bill that would have given the Bears the fiscal certainty they needed to finance Arlington Heights, that pilot-style mechanism everyone talked about for months, failed to pass the legislature. And without that certainty, without being able to walk into a bank and show exactly what they'd owe in taxes over the next 40 years, it's nearly impossible to secure the private financing a project of that scale requires. Illinois had its shot, had months of negotiation, and couldn't or wouldn't get it done. Team President Kevin Warren and McCaskey both said they'll have more to report in the coming days. In NFL front office language, that usually means something is being cooked up. And there are additional reports from NFL.com suggesting the Bears could merge 2 separate sites in northwest Indiana into one larger project. That tells you this isn't a casual exploration anymore. They're running soil samples, evaluating environmental remediation, doing the serious engineering work that only happens when you're genuinely considering building there, not when you're just using Indiana as a bargaining chip against Illinois. My opinion, and I'll say it straight, I think Illinois is running out of cards to play. Every week that passes, without a concrete deal in Springfield, is another week. Indiana solidifies its position with money, with political will, and with a governor actively campaigning in public for this team. Illinois, meanwhile, stays stuck in the same old fight between the city of Chicago, which doesn't want to lose game day revenue, and the rest of the state, which sees Arlington Heights as a genuine economic development opportunity. And in that internal fight, the Bears don't have infinite patience. They've already said they want a final decision soon. What does this mean for us as fans? Look, if they end up in Hammond, we're still the Bears. The navy and orange jersey doesn't change. The history of Halas, of Peyton, of Butkus doesn't get erased because of a zip code 20 minutes from where we are right now. But it does sting, fam. The idea that our own city's politics couldn't hold on to this franchise in Illinois. And that's a wound that, if this actually happens, is going to take years to heal. And to close things out, fam, I've got something that genuinely put a smile on my face this week, because after talking about tense trades and a stadium slipping further away, I needed a good news story, and this one delivers. Luther Burden III is back on the field. Quick recap on the situation. Burden strained his groin on August 8th, on a play where he got tangled up with cornerback Tyreek Stevenson during a practice drill. And for a receiver, we already flagged on this channel as a serious breakout candidate this season. Nearly 3 weeks off the field in the middle of training camp is time that scares you. Every practice a young second-year receiver misses is one less rep building the chemistry he needs with Caleb Williams before games actually start counting. But on Wednesday the 26th, Burden was back on the field, working through stretching and individual drills. And the very next day, Thursday, he was already back with the full team in Nashville at the joint practice against the Tennessee Titans, though still limited to individual work rather than full team drills. Reporter Brad Biggs described it as a step in the right direction. And I agree, though with the caution it deserves. There's still one more step needed, seeing him in full team drills with no setback. That's the real test. And he's not alone. Darnell Wright, the starting right tackle, had also left Tuesday's practice when trainers checked out his right elbow, the same arm that gave him trouble last season and that he's still protecting with a brace. Wright returned to full participation on Wednesday. For an offensive line already carrying uncertainty on the left side, based on what Ben Johnson himself admitted this week about who starts there in Week 1, having Wright healthy on the right side is a relief that shouldn't be underestimated. And there's more positive movement in the report. Safety Elijah Hicks and linebacker Keyshawn Elliott both debuted in practice after being activated off the physically unable to perform list. Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles have both been publicly consistent in their confidence about Burden's breakout potential this season. And to me, seeing the coaching staff prioritize bringing him back carefully without rushing the process is a sign of responsible management, not panic. Now, the connection I can't ignore. While Burden and Wright were returning to the field, Gervin Dexter and Austin Booker stayed away. 2 storylines running in parallel, one coming back, the other carrying total uncertainty about a player's future on this roster. That's training camp in the last week of August. Some guys come back, others are probably on their way out. Bear down always means handling both sides of that coin at the same time. And that's everything I've got for today, fam. We're closing this one out with mixed feelings, like it usually goes being a fan of this franchise. A $64 million trade rumor that could reinforce the secondary but leaves me with real doubts about the pass rush. A stadium that feels a little further from Illinois every single week. And a receiver who finally got back on the field right when we needed to see him there. Bear down, always. If this video gave you something, smash that like, subscribe, and tell me down in the comments. Would you make the Dexter for Bates trade? Or would you keep the defensive line together? I want to read every single answer. See you in the next one.